Hi guys, this is Rocky here again with yet another one of my installation videos, and we're going to be looking at VPNs, or virtual private networks. Now, for many of you all who may have heard about VPNs and may be very interested in terms of what it is, it's very exciting and actually a very dynamic tool that can be used and implemented using a server. Now, a VPN, basically what it does, it extends your private network, right? So what this means is, if it is you have, say you have different offices within maybe the country or even expanding the globe itself, you can connect these remote locations via the internet using a VPN, right? And it enables your computers or any Wi-Fi enabled device to send and receive data across shared or public networks such as the internet, right? Just as if you were connected to that private network, right? And you basically get the same benefits from functionality of the network, the security and management policies of that private network. And a VPN is actually created by establishing virtual point-to-point connections through the use of dedicated connections, virtual tunneling protocols, or traffic encryptions. Right. So the VPN, basically, it works over the internet, similar to like a WAN, or a wide area network, where you know most companies have it, where they have and you share the internet via access points, right? So there's no actual cabling that connects you to the internet. But how the VPN works is that this can be even expanded further, even over the globe, over far remote access points, where, for example, if you have a head branch in say New York, and you have another sub branch probably down in the Caribbean, in maybe in Jamaica or Barbados, anything like that, you can actually connect via a VPN through or over the internet to all these sites, just as if you were plugged in locally in that network itself, right? Now, obviously, with this type of infrastructure, there would be some limitations, and mostly limitations that it actually has is more or less using that point-to-point connection. It tends not to be able to support like broadcast domains, right? So some communication software and networking which are based on like the layer 2 packets, such like NetBIOS, and these that use Windows networking, may not fully support or work exactly as they would on a real LAN. Now, some variants, such as the virtual private LAN services, or VPLS, and layer 2 tunnel protocols, are designed to overcome these limitations. Right? So, as I said before, your VPN allows your employees to securely access the company's intranet while traveling outside the office, and similarly, the VPNs would securely connect other offices geographically across the globe, right? Offices of different organizations, just as if they were, you know, on that same network. So VPNs are exciting, and we are going to actually look at connecting or creating or implementing a VPN using the Server 2008 R2 operating platform, and connected to the Windows 7 machine. Right, so we can use this VPN connection to show how it actually is connected. So Looking at basically what a small outlook of what you should expect in terms of using a VPN. Basically, you have your head office here, and over the internet, connecting a VPN, you can relate to the other offices, as I said before, that may span the globe, or maybe just span the country, right? But yet connected over the internet and very secure, and just as if you were on that same localized network. So we're going to go to the server now, the R2 2008, and we can go to now. Obviously, from the initial configuration task, you can add roles, or you can go to Start, go to Administrative Tools, right, and then we go up to the Server Manager. Here we go to the roles. So along with all these other roles that we have installed, we're going to add roles now. Click Next. Now the role that we're going to add is the Network Policy and Access Service. Alright, select it. Make sure the tick comes up. And it shows here, as it indicates, the Network Policy Access Services provide network policy server, routing and remote access, right? So this is basically what we can add here, the routing and remote access, right? Health, registration authority, and not actually interested in those. So we go on to next, right? So it continues to give a more or less a broader outlook in terms of what it is we're actually going to install. So it would be advisable to read exactly everything that comes up before you install. So the roles that we're interested in here is the network server, network policy server, and the routing remote access services. Right now, routing remote access services is where the actual VPN, that connection over a virtual private network is indicated here. Alright, so as I say, it provides remote user access to resources on your private network over a virtual private network. Right, so this is what we're interested in, the VPNs, and this is what we're actually going to be installing. Alright, so we click Next. Right, so as I say here, just to indicate exactly what you're going to be installing, confirmation, as you see. Right, the network policy server, the routing and remote access services with remote access service and routing. Right, and you click Install. So as you see, the installation was successful. Right, so we click Close. So so as you can see, we have the network policy and access services here, right? And it is installed, but it still hasn't been fully configured. So you can go to Start, Administrative Tools, and we go on to Network Policy Server. Okay, so it comes up here in Network Policy Server, and what we want to do is we want to go into, now there are a lot of, as you see, there are the various client services, policies, network. What we're interested at present is the policies, right, and the network policies. So what we're going to do is create a new network policy. So the policy name can be anything you want. So for this policy, I'm just going to put Rock House VPN policy. Right, and type of network access server. Yeah, specify it to a VPN. Right, so it's a remote access server VPN dial-up, and we click Next. Now here you can specify the exact conditions to determine whether the network policy is, as I say, is evaluated for the connection request, right? So you click add here and you select the connection. So what we want to do, as we said, we go down to the actual connection properties, right? So connection properties, and we continue down to the type we're looking for is the tunnel type. Right, now the tunnel type, see, it restricts the policy to only clients that create a specific type of tunnel, such as the PPTP or the L2TP. Right, so you want to actually have some restrictions, and you need to know the specific clients that are coming through. Right, so click add to that. Now, so what we see just indicated is we want to have the PPTP, right? So we need to have that selected, and we also need to have the L2TP or layer 2 tunnel protocol selected also, because that's what you want in the tunnel type. Click OK, and there we have your tunnel types, conditions, specify conditions, right? So we click next, and we reach into this area where they call for specify the access permissions. Now, yes, what we are actually going to do is grant access. Right, so we want to grant access to this, so we click next. So make sure it's selected and click next. Now here we have configure the authentication methods. Now what we don't want is the user being able to change their password automatically after it has expired. And we also will be deselecting the MS-CHAP or Microsoft Encrypted Authentication. Right, we have the MS-CHAP 2 version 2, and that's what we're going to use. Right, and we click next here. Now what we have here is certain constraints, idle timeout, and what this constraint does is it would specify the time, or in terms of maximum time in minutes, that the server can be remain idle for with a connection. So you can actually set a specific time. It is not indicated here as yet. So once you click here, disconnect after a maximum idle time. So for example, if it is you made a connection via the VPN and you have been away from your system for a maximum amount of time, it will automatically log you out and you have to log back in again. As an administrator, you may want to actually have that constraint configured. Right, we also have in terms of the session timeout, you could actually create the amount of time you want user on, doing work via the VPN. Right, and we also have call station IDs. Day restrictions is something that we would actually want to configure too, in terms of access to your VPN or to your network via the VPN on certain specific days. For example, if it is your work day is between is Monday and Friday, Monday to Friday, you don't want people accessing, or workers or your employees accessing the VPN on weekends, right? So you can actually make that constraint, configure that constraint here. But for now, we'll come back to this it again, right? And we click next. All right, so we move on to more settings again. So we can leave these as default for now. Okay, so from here we move on and we just we click finish. All right, so as you can see, we have new policy, right, and this is enabled. As you can see via the green tick here, it isn't enabled. So we now go to start administrative tools, and we're now going to configure the routing and remote access. And as you can see with using the red arrow here, it isn't configured as yet. Right, so we right click and click configure remote access. Okay, so welcome to the wizard, and we click next. Now we're going to go with the custom configuration for this tutorial. Right, click next, and we are actually going to use the VPN access. Click next to that, right, and finish. Now what's going to pop up is going to access in terms of starting the service here, and we click start, and the service starts. Okay, click finish. We have the remote access server now being enabled, and we go down here, we see some of the different tabs. We have the information in terms of the loopback, and all these things are enabled here. Local area connections, clients. Now at present there would be no clients being showed because we have no clients. We haven't given any of the users access as yet, right? So that's why we have none there. You see a full list of different ports, most of which are inactive at present, right? And we move on to different the login policies. Now what I want to go back to is the ports, and we'll just right click, go to properties here. Remember what we are using, we're using the L2TP and the PPTP. Now what we can do with these ports, as you see there's a number here assigned to these ports, right? 128, 128. Now this number indicates what the maximum amount of devices that can be connected. What you may want to do is configure these ports to actually to be more realistic to exactly what you need. For example, if you have a small company that maybe only have about, say, 30 users, 25 to 30 users, right? What you can do is configure the port to only accept the maximum amount of users where 30 devices can be supported, right? And you also want to configure your LTP port to the same 30, right? 30 users. Right, so now it is showing that the two ports that we are actually using are only limited to 30 maximum users. Right, so you click apply to these both, right, and then click OK. Okay, so now that we have configured the ports, we are more or less at this point complete with some of the configuration on the server side. And we will actually come back here. So for now, let's go switch across to one of our Windows users. Right, and what we do now is configure the user VPN. So we go to Network Sharing Center, right, we go to start a new connection, and what we're going to do is connect to our workplace, right, set up dial-up or VPN connection, right, so we click that. Here we're going to use my internet connection or VPN, right, and okay, so we will set up the internet connection later. And for the internet address here, what we'll do is type in the IP address 192.16, well, in my case 168.1.1, right, VPN connection, and we click next. Okay, we click next, and the username obviously would be the user that is presently being connected. Right, and the password will be for this user. Right, and create. So it's creating a connection. The connection is ready to use. Right, and you click close. Now we'll go into the change adapter settings. Now we have the VPN connection here. Now it is disconnected. So what we will do is click connect, right, and you type in your password, right, and try to connect. So now as you see here, it's connecting to the 192.168.1 using the HTTP, right, trying to connect to the server. And now there we see the VPN connection is connected, right. So we have the VPN connection connected, and now we can go on to back onto the server. So back on the server here, we go to start administrative tools, and we have the network policy server. We go to network policies, we go back into the policies, and we see the policy that is actually enabled. Okay, so we're going to do is right click on that and go down to properties. Now, as I said, I would have come back to show you guys some of the constraints and how to actually use the constraints. And as I said before, there we can actually put in the timeout or the idle timeout if you wanted, right? So right after a maximum of how many minutes you want the machine to be idle, 20 minutes, and it would be disconnected from the connection after that, right? One that handy in terms of making sure that your employees have some restrictions in terms of when they log on is the day and time. Now, as I said before, for a normal company, normally Sundays, so what you do is just drag, select and drag, and then you click deny. Now, as you see here, blue is for the times that are permitted, and white is for the times that are denied. Right, so Saturdays and Sundays would normally, for most companies, be um, denied days where you actually wouldn't have business going on, right? And for most companies, a lot of them have 8 to 4. You may Some companies may allow for people coming in to work earlier. So for me, I would deny from 6, and they may even have some of the management staff or even some of the other employees coming in or staying back a bit later, right? Some banks may do it, have work, even though they are actually from 8 to 4, there are some hours that are earlier. So you see I've been restricted, so for on Mondays from 6 a.m. and the last time they actually have is up to 8 p.m. They will be actually have access to the actual server itself via the VPN. So you click OK to that, and that will be the actual timings that will be set for access to the VPNs. Okay, so that's basically it for me in terms of VPN installation implementation. Right, as you see, we have successfully had a VPN connection from the client to the server, and we also have some restrictions or constraints set up for your clients. So, as I said before, again, Tom, thanks very much. I hope that you go and play and start implementing some of these in your own networks, right? Because it's very, as I say, it's very handy. Is a very handy tool where you can create a VPN and be connected to your work. Um, at any position you are on the globe. Hope that you have learned something, and I hope that I can actually continue to gather more information and make it available to you. And thanks very much for looking at my video, and see you again soon.